Hey guys, this is Mr. Albanez, and this is the homework video for October 23rd, adding fractions and mixed numbers, Monday night. So for this first problem, we've got -7, and we're going to be adding a +4 and 5 over 9. Now, with that whole number, we want to make sure that we turn that whole number into a fraction as well, and then we're going to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So that's the very first step that we do whenever we're adding fractions, is that we need to get rid of all whole numbers, and we need to get both of the denominators the same. So this -7 is going to turn into a -7 over 1, because that's still going to keep the same value. -7 divided by 1 is still -7. And then this 4 and 5 over 9, we're going to take the 9, multiply it by 4, which gives us 36, and we're going to add 36 to 5, which is going to give us 41. And we're going to keep over the same denominator, which was 9. So we've got our first step done, and then we're going to proceed with our next step, which is to find the least common denominator of 1 and 9. Now 1 will go into all numbers, so whenever you have 1 as a denominator, the other number will be your least common denominator, in this case 9. So we're going to turn both of these fractions into fractions that have a denominator of 9. So 1 to get to 9, well, I'm going to multiply that by 9, and then let me do that in a different color so it stands out. I'm going to multiply that by 9, and if I multiply the bottom by 9, I'm going to multiply the top by 9 as well. So -7 times 9 is -63, and then 9 times 1 is going to keep this fraction the same. When the denominator is the same as the LCD, the least common denominator, you don't have to change the fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this to make some space for the problem. And I have now my new problem of -63 over 9 plus 41 over 9. Now I have to ask myself, do these have the same sign or different signs? Because now I'm adding the numerators. Now I'm ready to add. They have different signs, which means I'm going to subtract the numbers. 63 minus 41 gives me 22. And then I've got to ask myself, is it a positive or negative 22? Well, the negative number is bigger than the positive number, and so this is going to end up being a negative 22 over 9, because the denominator stays the same. So you don't add those 9s, you keep that the same. I think we all have that down by now. Now the last thing I need to do in order to finish up this problem is I need to simplify. So -22 over 9 is going to simplify into a mixed number. I'll go ahead and let you do that on your own. Let's go over to number 2. Same thing, we're going to start the same fraction problem off every time. We're going to turn these into improper fractions and find their least common denominator. So 5 times 2, that's going to give me 10. Then add that to this numerator of 2 is going to give me 12 over 5 negative. Do the same thing over here. 3 times 1, well, that's 3, plus 2 is going to give me 5 over 3. And now I have to find the least common denominator of 5 and 3. That's supposed to be an and sign. And the least common denominator of 5 and 3 is going to be 15. So I'm going to put both of these fractions over fractions that have a denominator of 15. 5 to get to 15. This 5 to get to 15, I'm going to need to multiply it by 3. Let's use a different color. I need to multiply that by 3. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. Now, remember, this is a negative number, so 12 times 3 is going to give me -36. And then 3 to get to 15, I'm going to need to multiply that by 5. If I multiply the bottom by 5, I'm going to multiply the top by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And now I have my two new fractions that I'm ready to add together. So I got -36 plus 25. Different signs means I'm going to subtract the numbers. 36 minus 25 gives me 11. And so I'm going to have an answer of 11 over 15, but I'm not done just quite yet, because the bigger number is negative, and so I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger number, -11 over 15. And that is in the simplest form. So we are good there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start you off for this one. So this is already in its improper fraction form. That means we don't have to do anything to this. It's already in the form that we wanted. There's no whole number. And so we can just leave that as negative 7 over 2. And then now this fraction here, this 3 and 2 over 3, that one we do want to change into improper fraction because we need to get rid of that whole number. 3 times 3 would give me 9. Add that to 2 gives me 11 over 3. And that is a positive number, so we're going to keep it as a positive number. So I'm going to go ahead and let you finish that one on your own. Just remember you're going to find the least common denominator of 2 and 3. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top to get to that, to get the, keep the equivalence, keep the same value. And then after that, make sure you simplify back to a mixed number if it's necessary. So I'll let you do that one on your own. But I'll walk you through these last two, especially that last one since it has 3 numbers, it can be kind of intimidating. So here I've got 2 over 7, which is a proper fraction. It's a smaller number on top of the big number, so that one is going to stay the same, just as 2 over 7. And we don't have to make any changes. We do have to get rid of this whole number of negative 3, though. So I'm going to take the denominator, multiply it by 3, which will give me 52, and then add that 52 to the 5, which is going to give me 57. So it's going to be plus negative 57 over 14. Now you should also be trying these on your own first before watching me do it, because that way you're going to do a lot better when you are taking the quiz or the exam. So now the next thing I need to do for this 2 over 7 plus negative 57 over 14 is find the least common denominator of 7 and 14. So 7 and 14, the number that they're both going to have in common first, well, the multiples of 7 would be 7, 14, 14, and then 14 times 1 is 14, so the least common denominator is going to be 14 for both of them. So I didn't have to go too far on that one. So I'm going to turn both of these fractions into fractions that have 14 as a denominator. So for 7 to get to 14, I'm going to have to multiply that by 2. So I'm going to multiply the top by 2 as well, which is going to give me 4 over 14. And then this fraction is going to stay the same because 14 to get to 14, well, that'd be times 1, and then negative 57 times 1 is still negative 57. So now I have my new improper fractions with the same denominators ready to add of 4 plus negative 57 over 14, which different signs. So I'm going to subtract the numbers. 57 minus 4 gives me 53. Positive or negative, bigger number is negative, so it's going to be negative 53. And keep that over 14. And then I'll go ahead and let you simplify that back into a mixed number. Looking at it, it looks like it might be something like negative, maybe negative 3 or negative 4 with some sort of remainder there. I'm going to let you work that out. Now the last one. So the last one, don't be intimidated by it. It's the exact same process that we've been doing with these two fractions, and now we just have 3. So it's just a little bit extra, but we're going to do the same thing. We want all of them first in improper fraction form. So we need to get rid of this whole number. We're going to do that by taking the 3, multiplying it by 5, which gives us 15. Adding 15 to 1 gives us 16 over 3. Now these other fractions, don't have any whole numbers, so they are already in the proper form that we want them in. So now we have all 3 fractions with no whole numbers, and so the next thing we need to do is find the least common denominator of 3, 9, and 3. And the least common denominator of 3, 9, and 3 is going to be 9, because 3 times 3 equals 9, and 9 times 1 equals 9, so the least common denominator for these 3 is going to be 9. I'm going to put that in a different color. So we're going to put all these fractions over 9. We'll start with the first, manipulating the first one. 16 over 3. For 3 to get to 9, we're going to need to multiply the bottom by 3, which means we're going to multiply the top by 3 as well. 16 times 3, that is 48. Negative 5 over 9, that already has a denominator of 9, so this is still going to stay as negative 5. And then 1 over 3, 3 to get to 9, we're multiplied by 3 on the bottom, so we'll multiply by 3 on the top. and then this is going to be 3 over 9. So now I've manipulated these first fractions that I had. I've changed them into all to have the same denominator of 9. And in doing so, I also kept the same value because whatever I multiply the bottom by, I multiply the top by the same thing. So these all have the same value. These are the same fractions technically, but just with different numbers. So now I'm ready to take on the next step of adding my numerators. So 48 plus negative 5 is different signs, so we're going to subtract. 48 minus 5 is 43. Bigger number is positive, so that's going to be 43. And then 43 plus 3 gives me 46. And then I'm still going to keep all that over 9. It's 46 over 9. I'm going to simplify that back into a mixed number. I'm going to let you do that. But notice that we just did the same process that we've done the whole time, but now with just one extra number. But luckily, the denominator was small enough so we didn't have to do any big calculations. And we still ended up with just one number over another. We ended up with just one fraction. In this case, it's improper, so just simplify that down, and you'll be all done with tonight's homework. See you in class tomorrow. Shout out to Emily Valentina in my second hour. I see you putting in a lot of work, and it's definitely going to pay off. Just keep working hard.